Alrighty, welcome back for another episode of the pod. We got everyone here today. Today we're going to be talking about one of our, favorite franchises in gaming, Spider-Man. So good thing that all three of us have played it. Oh, Lucas is wearing the his Spider-Man gear for this. So
Repping.
I'm actually, dude. Actually, guys, pause. I'm actually wearing my Spider-Man gear. Check this out. This was me as a kid. And I was Spider Helper. And Preston, my older brother, was Spider-Man. And so I'd wear these goggles and I'd run around with Preston. See, my dad is Mr. Cool. My dad made these shirts for Christmas for us.
That's
Dang, dude.
awesome.
That's
and
clean.
I didn't even realize that I was actually dressed up for this video. Wow.
Bro, it's perfect.
Dang.
The device.
Anyways. Well, so Spider Helper is here. But yeah, Spider-Man PS4, they remastered it for PS5. We've all played it. We all loved it. But is it our favorite Spider-Man, canonical timeline? We'll get into that a little bit. And so yeah, let's jump right into the plot. So it already starts out, right? Peter Parker, already Spider-Man, just living his life. And he volunteers with Aunt May at the homeless shelter a lot. And he, at the beginning of the game, you meet Mr. Lee, who is just a normal guy that you just know. But then all of a sudden, things start going weird, and you end up fighting Mr. Lee, and he's, one of the main villains in the game. So that obviously leads to the major fight towards the end, which we'll get to. But love to hear your guys' takes on some of the parts of the story you guys love.
Yeah, I mean, I can dive right in. Honestly, I thought it was a really cool kind of time period and era that we got. Obviously, like Peter Parker's already been Spider-Man for I don't know how many years before this game starts.
I think it's 7.
7. So he's already been Spider-Man for like
8.
7 years, right? He like a lot of stuff has happened that usually is what we see in like movies or other video games, right? It's like, oh no, like Green Goblin's here, or oh no, he's fighting the Rhino, like all these things. But it's like he's already had a lot of those battles. So I kind of liked the fact that he was an older, kind of like postgraduate student who's, now just trying to find work and be Spider-Man. And I think that was kind of cool. When I played Spider-Man for the first time, I was in college and doing stuff. And so it was fun that it was kind of like a similar kind of feel to like my point in life that I was at. So I thought that was kind of a cool setting and something that was different than what we've seen kind of in other movie adaptations. So I liked that aspect of it. I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, with me, I played tons of Spider-Man games growing up, and this is the one that really was set apart narrative wise. Because like Jake said, you kind of are introduced to an older, like kind of experienced Spider-Man, Peter Parker, right? He's already been Spider-Man for a while, and he's kind of getting into the feel of it. He already knows what, kind of what's going on. And so it was cool to kind of, because we've only seen like origin stories. Like this is how Spider-Man came to be, right? Like he got his powers and all that stuff. But it wasn't until just recently we were starting to introduce this Spider-Man stories that are like, oh yeah, he is pretty well into his spider career. And that was cool to kind of see him kind of already have these cool moves, and it's like these different gadgets and stuff that he's developed through the years that kind of help him fight crime. And I mean, again, like kind of like you're saying, the plot was one of the things that set the game apart, where we see a lot of who he is and how much he actually has yet to grow, right? Because up until this point, he's probably faced a lot of adversity, and he has, but there was more to the story, right? It wasn't that he's just full-fleshed, he was a Spider-Man, but he had more to grow on. And I thought that was really, really cool that we got to see both sides of that coin.
Well, yeah, to roll right off that, I mean, in the game, Mr. Lee brings back the Fab Six, right? Is that what they're called?
The Sinister.
Sinister Six, right? And those are 6 people that he's already defeated in this timeline. So he's already had all these experiences with these, crazy monsters ravaging New York City. And so now it's like in this game, then he's having to take them all down again, but also finds new enemies that are even more powerful and have powers that he's never come across before. So yeah, I like both the things y'all said. But not only that, he meets, we see some familiar faces and we also get some new faces. Um, Obviously there's Aunt May. She's not my favorite Aunt May, but that's just because I'm biased towards Marissa Tomei. But she's still great, and she's like a very motherly figure for Peter. Uncle Ben's already gone in this moment, right? And so they're very close. But she at this time doesn't know he's Spider-Man. And then he's on and off with MJ, which you find out early on in the game that they're currently separated. Which we got some people in the chat have some pretty harsh comments about that. We'll get to that shortly, actually. But we also run into Miles, which I think was a very big teaser for the Spider-Man Miles Morales game. And obviously the Into the Spider-Verse came out shortly, a few years after that, and when it came out on PS4, and then ultimately the PS5 dropped with Miles Morales as the headlining game, and so it was cool to show his origin in this timeline, right? So let's hear it. Characters. Well, who did I miss? What are we talking about?
Yeah, well, I think before we get into characters as well, one thing that I kind of failed to bring up, there were some pretty I mean, you talked about briefly at the beginning, this game went from PS4 to PS5. With the new PS5 version, they actually changed the character design for most notably Peter Parker. So I would love to hear you guys' take. I personally liked the PS4 Peter Parker more than the PS5 Peter Parker. I don't know if that's a hot take or not, but would love to hear you guys' thoughts on that and which one you prefer.
I never played PS4 version, so Lucas, you got it.
Yeah, so I opened it up. I pre-ordered the PS4 version. I loved the first version because I fell in love with the actor, like the voice actor for Peter Parker, because he just felt so Peter Parker to me, right? And we know who it is, our boy Yuri Lowenthal. And
Sasuke himself.
Yeah, right. And so he was a really cool addition. And I'm actually in the same boat with you. I think it's kind of funny because every live action Spider-Man has their own quirk, but I thought, like, after reading the comics and stuff, I just based off Tom Holland's like portrayal of Spider-Man, he kind of represents kid Spider-Man the best, right? And so I kind of took that into this, like, the second face. He almost looks like Tom Holland. And so I felt like I was playing with the, like, kind of like the movie verse more than its own game. And so I could see why people are like, yeah, no, I think the second face is really good. But the way that they brought that about was kind of dirty. Like, they kind of, like, Yuri Lowenthal didn't know that his face was changed until the game came out, like until the remastered came out. And so they're like, holy cow, like, he's like, I'm not there anymore. He found out, like, on, I think, Twitter or something. So justice for my boy Yuri. PS4 version is the best.
Wait, so like, is it a different voice too?
No, it's the same voice.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, no, interesting. Glad that I'm not alone in that belief. Justice for Yuri. We love PS4. But anyways, like you were saying, Jay Higgs, the characters we got, I loved how they brought Miles into this into the storyline. Again, all of us have a little bit of beef with the MJ. We'll get to that. But the introduction of Miles, you kind of, from what I remember playing the game, you actually play a level with Jeff Davis, right? Miles' dad. He's the police officer. Like, he does like a couple missions with you and stuff. And then you have some pretty cool cutscenes with him in it before his dad dies, right? And then you kind of, Peter steps in as this like older brother kind of figure to Miles, and more so like Spider-Man kind of steps in as that older brother figure to Miles. And so I really liked that, how they kind of wrote the story that way. And you kind of fall in love with Miles as a character and this guy who is very well intentioned before he gets bitten by the spider and becomes Spider-Man in his own right, right? So I like that aspect of the game a lot. And again, every time the police officer close to Spider-Man dies, it's heartbreaking. So sad to see it. Sad to see Miles' dad go, but I thought it was a good intro for his character.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I thought Miles was cool because again, reading the comics growing up, Miles is always such a cool character because he kind of had his own flair with it, right? We know Spider-Man, he's got like the proportional strength of a spider, all of like the standard spider uh, abilities. But then when Miles was introduced, we're introduced to him having bioelectricity and camouflage, and that was super cool because we never seen that before. We're just kind of seeing just Spider-Man and like the different versions of him just being like a wall crawler, can swing with like web swinging and all that stuff, right? Super strong, spider sense, all like the standard works, but this kind of gave it its own flavor. And so it was cool to see Miles in that. One character that I was actually super interested when I first played this, like kind of shocked me at the beginning because I was like, oh my goodness, we're like the game's starting out with just like a fight scene right now, right? Which well, I like a boss fight, and I thought Otto Octavius was gonna be like the first boss fight of the game, but we come to find out that he's actually like you're working for him. He's a good guy, and that was a cool portrayal because like in the comics, Otto Octavius is like notorious for trying to like create a spider army, right? That was kind of like a lot of the different um, like some of the comic lines that you take. Norman Osborn and Otto Octavius just wanted to create a spider clone so that they could create an army of spider like enhanced super soldiers basically, and they're trying to get Spider-Man's DNA, so that's why they're always like trying to fight him and capture him and all that stuff. And so I thought this was going to be similar, but it was a refreshing take that he was actually like a mentor to Peter, right, growing up, and that's what made like the story that much engaging, and then in the end that much heartbreaking.
Yeah. Well, and to add to that, how about Oscorp? I love every time Oscorp is in the timeline. I think Harry throughout the Tobey Maguire series is a pivotal character. I think Norman could always have a larger role in any timeline that we see him in, and I feel like this timeline is the timeline where we see him the most. Um, I also grew up playing the Spider-Man on the PC, the Amazing Spider-Man, I think number 2, where you fight Puma and Mysterio and Doc Ock, and it's Tobey Maguire, but I
Spider-Man
loved
2.
Oscorp in that one too. So that's another side facet of family for Peter, right? And seeing how he's so close to them, but corruption's all around him. So anything else you want to add, Jake?
No, not specifically on those characters. I agree. I like how they portrayed Doc Ock and as well, like Osborn and stuff. I think the last big thing is just to talk about the elephant in the room, MJ, our girl.
All right, let's hear it. The floor is y'all's.
I think I probably cut her the most slack out of the boys. Was she absolutely horrible? In my opinion, no. Were there some things that I was like, okay, this is just like annoying, and she's got Spider-Man and she's fumbling the bag, yeah, but like I didn't hate her that much. But I'd love to hear you guys' feelings. I know a little bit more how Lucas feels about it, but
so let me go then.
Yeah,
I thought I was gonna be the most mellow. Like I truly did, because I'm not about her, but I'm not like I think Peter needs to just have a little more confidence. I mean, man's literally Spider-Man. Like pull your head out and like you're a solid dude. Like you have good intentions. Don't let her push you around so much. Like.
yeah.
And that was my kind of beef. But if you tie in her character with how many missions you have to play as her, then yeah, it's like pretty aggravating. But I mean, I like how they include her in the story because it's true Spider-Man doesn't do everything by himself, and you kind of get to see it all. I did think some of the levels were a little too long, and that kind of detracted from what I felt about her. But I mean, you got to understand where she's coming from too. Like journalist, wants to be in the action, wants to be taken seriously her whole life, and if the person that she loves is always trying to hold her back from those things, then like she might want separation or want something else or need change or share her feelings, right? That's all journalism is sharing what you're feeling, right? So, or what you're seeing. And so she's obviously pretty good at expressing herself. So sometimes it rubs the wrong way, but Lucas, let's hear it.
So I think, yeah, out of the boys, I'm definitely a little bit more. I'm definitely more against her, just because, again, growing up with the comics, I was always a Gwen Stacy fan. Mary Jane is kind of that like, I kind of like, oh, Peter Spider-Man is cooler because he's with me, or like I'm just as cool as him. I'm like, no, like you're not. It's Spider-Man. You're kind of lame. Gwen Stacy was like way better. She was always like trying to like help him, get to like get out of the muck and all that stuff. Even though in the end it's funny because in all of Marvel comics there are two characters. A bunch of characters always die, but there's two characters that stay dead, and it's Uncle Ben and Gwen Stacy, which is horrifying. Everyone else comes back to life. But yeah, so anyways, going back to MJ, I'm in the same boat with you, Jason, in the sense of he seems like such a confident guy, especially when he's like facing these big bad, like super powered villains. But then as soon as MJ walks in the room, he's like, yeah, you can like I'll make dinner. Why don't we stay at your place and I'll make dinner? Like he's kind of just fumbling all over the place. I'm like, come on, dude. You saved the world countless times. You can't go fumbling around a girl who the reason she dumped you was because you're trying to protect her from all the super powered villains that are trying to destroy the city. Right? That is probably part two of why I don't like her as well. It's because she's like, well, Peter, you're always holding me back. Like you're not letting me be part of the action. Yeah, because you're gonna die. Like you don't have the proportional strength of a spider. You don't have all these like technology to help you fight supervillains. So why in the world are you going in the middle of everything you know, to try to get part of the action? You can stay from behind the lines and still get that. You don't need to be like, Spider-Man, don't stop trying to save me from the Rhino who can literally explode an entire block and still be fine.
Okay, but let's be honest though. How much of it is because of the fact of the DLC with Black Cat that you don't like MJ? That's a lot of it for me.
So
I can see why though.
You ship the Black Cat Spidey romance.
I'm all about it. I ship that so hard.
There we go. And it comes full circle.
I would say if we got missions where we got to play as Black Cat, they would be way more entertaining than the MJ missions.
That is so true. I agree. That Sable mission when you're in the middle of a Sable camp with MJ, I wanted to shoot myself because I'm like, this is too long. This is too long. It was cool like 30 minutes ago, but no, now it's getting old.
Yeah, no, those missions were probably the biggest hang up for me for her character in the game. So, but hey, to be fair, Miles, there were a couple Miles missions too where you were kind of doing the same thing. I thought the aspects of that in the story were cool, but maybe overused.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, we talked a lot about Doc Ock. He's kind of the OG, and then he becomes the big bad guy, right? So let's talk a little bit about the villains. Who do we love? Who do we not like? What do you think, Lucas? Who should we start off with?
I mean, we kind of touched on. I think Doc Ock was a huge reveal, right? And it was cool because we got to see what turned him into a villain. It wasn't just like, money, power, smarts, wealth, all that stuff. It's like, no, his brain was degrading because of the neural implant. And so that was super cool. And I thought that was such a crazy turn because we got to see him go from like take the hatred that he had for Norman, who kind of like shut him down and kind of caused him to, take desperate routes, right? Because it was because of Norman's like rush deadline that caused him to be like, no, we have to get this neural implant down, or he's going to shut us down and we're not going to be able to do it, right? And so it was a cool progression to see from where he was as like this mellow mentor to Peter and like a good friend to Peter to being like the villain in the end. So I thought it
Yeah,
was
I'd
cool.
have to agree. I think honestly, like, yeah, I think it was cool. They gave us a good taste of the other villains. Like, you get to fight Electro, you get to fight Rhino, you get to fight a couple of these like other villains. But I think obviously the game is written. Mr. Negative is a big villain and a big story, but Doc Ock steals the show for me. Just seeing his whole, again, like Lucas said, the progression from him being this kind of father figure slash person that Peter looks up to professionally, to him becoming the villain. And then in the end, with his final confrontation with Peter, I just think it's hard to beat Doc Ock's character development in the game. And again, the influence that he has on Peter kind of moving forward was really cool. So I'd also have to say Doc Ock stole the show.
Yeah. And I'll add on Mr. Lee, right? It showed a bunch of corruption within the city. I mean, he's the lead, he's like the manager of the homeless shelter. And he's got this super huge underground corporation where they're, have all these crazy dark magic ability stuff and they're poisoning the city and they're trying to overthrow everything and they don't like Norman, right? Norman's kind of like the good bad guy because he's wronged so many people, but like, I mean, he's pretty corrupt himself, but he's like not killing people on purpose to underground. He's a little bit different vibe, and I think we see him differently too because of Peter, right? Peter, like we kind of look through the lens of Peter, and so we like Norman more. But yeah, Mr. Lee, Mr. Negative, great new villain to the main timelines that we see in like the movies or the previous games, right?
For sure.
So and something we also loved about this game is the gadgets, the combinations, things you can do as Spider-Man. He's so spider-like in all the comics and all the games, and so this one they didn't do us dirty and they gave us super cool gadgets, super cool combos. Swinging through the city is a dub. I'd love to hear what you guys love about in those three things. What you liked and what made it feel like you were Spider-Man.
Yeah, I mean, I think just you kicked it off by saying swinging, right? I think this was really the first Spider-Man game that really implemented like a clean, more balanced swinging system. So, like you guys said, you grew up playing some other Spider-Man games. The game that I played was just called Spider-Man. It was a 2002 video game for GameCube. And when you play that one and you swing around the city, your webs just go straight up in the air. So it's like you're like no buildings around you. Your webs are just going straight up and you can swing wherever you want. So like the whole physics behind this game that were again even further developed for Spider-Man 2 and for Miles Morales, right, was the realistic swinging was really, really cool. And along with that, one of my favorite kind of power-ups in the game that you can unlock is the air tricks kind of feature. So then as you're swinging around the city, you can like throw backflips or like just, jump off a building and just do a few somersaults before you start swinging around. So I thought that kind of immersive swinging was really cool. So I don't know, thoughts on swinging. I got a couple other things too, as far as like the suits and gameplay goes, but I think that was definitely one of the major ones for me.
Yeah, I mean, for swinging for me, this is definitely the best. I mean, anyone will tell you this, but this is the best Spider-Man game in terms of swinging because, like you said, Jake, it's definitely a lot more immersive. And I played that game too, but I think it was until Spider-Man 2 when they started introducing where you have to be near a building to swing or to like cast, like to hit a web, right? And then that was taking more. The game that I played the most was Spider-Man 3, the like movie game. And that one was kind of similar where it just felt still super clunky where you would swing and it was almost like he was like a brick on a pendulum, right? He was just like zooming. But this one, it literally like from the moment where you jump off a building and like dive and then take the swing and like, shoot a web out and swing, you feel how smooth and fluid it is. And like the camera angle is like super cinematic. And so it definitely like made you feel like you were weaving in between buildings, right? You were getting close to the floor and all that stuff, kind of like what we know what we watch in like the movies and stuff. And so swinging was definitely probably my number one, like my favorite part of that game.
Yeah. Well, I completely agree. And with I played the PS5 version, so they didn't have the haptic feedback when you swing. So I personally don't like haptic feedback that much. I have the Elite controller, and so I like set the settings on it to like lowest, so I don't have to click very far. And so, other than Spider-Man, I usually tend to keep it on those settings so I don't have to like press it really hard just to pull the trigger. But for swinging purposes, it's really fun and it's very relaxing, you know.
But
But gadgets, I mean, I loved Spider-Man. This first Spider-Man, I mean, you open your wheel of your web wheel, and you have like 8 different things you can choose from. You know, explosive web or impact webs, spider bots that you know just shoot for you. Like, there's so many different things you can do. And usually, when I jump into a battle, I wasn't really like I wasn't really sneaking around. I usually would just go in full head first and you know mob. But uh, I would just literally unleash all of my like electro webs and my impact webs like immediately and just like blow up the place because you know you have so many different things you can do. And so I love that factor. They kind of change it in this newer Spider-Man game the way it works, but this one specifically, it's like, okay, I have everything disposable at me at any time, and it's just up to me whatever I want to use. So I love the customization aspect of that.
I think another thing that I liked, kind of similar to that, but a little bit different, was the different suit power ups as well. So obviously, you know, if you click in your two thumbsticks, then you would activate like a suit ability, right? And the one that I will like live and die by is the Spider Bro ability. So that's the one where when you activate it, it sends out like a little drone, and then the drone flies around you and it like shoots people around you with like electricity and like stuns them, so you can just attack. And so again, there was a ton of different ones that you could choose from for each different suit, and then you could apply those to the different suit, the different suit designs that you had. And so I think that one originally came in with the Stark suit from kind of the MCU Spider-Man. But I don't know about you guys. I was always rocking the armored advanced suit. We'll get a picture of that up on here. But just the clean, I loved how much white they added to the Spider-Man suit, because typically, you know, Spider-Man's always like, you know, red and blue, a little bit of black and stuff in there. But I thought the white accents on the suit, for specifically for this game, PS5, the PS4 version, was amazing. But then the Armored Advanced kind of took it another step further, where he's got the white helmet and like the white armor pieces. I thought it was sick. So I don't know what skins you guys were rocking for the playthrough.
yeah, I mean, my original suit, I like my first playthrough of any game I play, I try to play as immersive as possible. And
Mm-hmm.
so in this case, you know, the first mission in the game, you kind of have just his classic red and blue. And
Mm-hmm.
then that gets all scratched up from his fight and stuff. And so he has to go and fix it and mends it with the advanced suit, which is
Yeah.
has the white accents on it. And so I played the entire game with that suit. And then after I was just messing around, I swapped to the Stark suit because it was one of the cleanest ones. It is so clean. That I switched between that and the Iron Spider suit. That
The
was
Iron
sick.
Spider was cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So but yeah, I mean gadgets. Kind of Jason, I played a little bit different. I was a little bit more sneaky, but the one gadget that I think I used the most was the tripwire, which I feel like people don't use a lot because like, why would you if you weren't sneaking around? But my favorite thing was seeing like, and you're in the middle of a battle and you hit someone with a tripwire, it sticks on them, and if that little little laser like hit a sensor hits another person, they would stick together. Like a web would shoot out, and then he would suck into each other, and then they would take out two enemies with one gadget. And so I was doing that all over the place, and I thought the gadgets in this game were incredible, and the way that the game progressed, and you were like, it wasn't just like, oh, they handed you the entire gadget wheel, right? You progressed through the game and you got different gadgets, and that was another cool part where it just felt like you were progressing again, like kind of like I said at the beginning, you were progressing and learning as Spider-Man and getting better. So
See, I was Mr. Negative suit usually. I liked that black and white. I thought that was just so clean. But if before I unlocked that one, I used the black and gold suit it's the remastered extra suit because I never played PS4, so
yeah,
but I'd play black and gold suit too. I thought that one was clean. And also stealth suit from another bonus suit from
yeah,
Home.
or Far From Home. That's what it is.
Far From Home. Yeah.
Is it Far From Home or Homecoming?
Far From Home. It was from the second one when they're in Europe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Both the stealth suit and then the Homecoming suit was the No Way Home is the black and gold. Right.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at it right now. I got it pulled up. I mean, they got 3 skill trees, 8 suit gadgets, multiple suit powers. I mean, there's just so much customization. You can be the Spider-Man that you want to be, and then add optimized swinging. So like we all got to be the Peter Parker with the powers we wanted to use, and we gotta fly through New York. Like I can tell you right now, like I really want to go visit New York just to feel like Spider-Man. Like not gonna lie.
Well, no, it's crazy because I've never been to New York before, but like my knowledge of New York is based off from this game. So like I see pictures that people post, and I'm like, dude, like I remember like the biggest one for me is was like Grand Central Station or whatever in New York. It's one of the MJ missions where she sneaks around and stuff, and then you can call in Spider-Man and he'll like take out the gunman and stuff. I saw one of my friends post a picture of that on Instagram the other day, and I was like, I know that from that mission, So it does definitely make you want to go to New York.
Well, we get to use all these gadgets and stuff, and one of the things that we do is prevent you stop crimes from happening through the city, right? I wanted to bring up something that was very seen in the negative eyes of fans that play this game was crimes, right? For those like Lucas and I that wanted to get all the trophies, then you had to do over 200 crimes to get the map completed. And luckily in the future Spider-Man games, they fixed that mistake. But like, it was such a drag, repeating the same crime and doing the exact same thing, like 200 plus times. So I don't know how many, Jake, you did, but Lucas, do you have any thoughts on the repetitiveness of this game? Any comments on that stuff?
Yeah, I think at the beginning I enjoyed it, right? So like right before I took my 2-year hiatus, I played the game and tried to grind it out as much. So I didn't get to 100%, but I finished the game, the story, and did a bunch of stuff. And it was still, I honestly enjoyed having like the different villains or like the different, I guess, factions that you could defeat. But yeah, it did get like a repetitive at times, and it was kind of nice because like it also felt like it was a game that you could just jump in, play for like 25-30 minutes and feel like you're not like forced to do more, right? You could jump in, swing around the city, and complete like 10 or 15 crimes, and then you can just pause the game and then leave. And that's what I really enjoyed about it, because I was like, it was without any hassle. But yeah, it definitely got tedious when you started the platinum grind, and you have to go to each district, and you have to do like 5 of each faction. And that's when it was just like, okay, oh my goodness, like let me just get through this. I already have to do like all the other side quests in this district. I have to do, I have to catch pigeons. I have to, do all these like different research stations. And then on top of that, I have to do like 15 to 20 crimes in this district. And you're like, okay, this is a little too much. It's a little too long of a grind, right? But it went by real quick, and it didn't detract from the fun I still have. So
yeah. Any thoughts on that, Jake? I know you're not a platinum guy, but you might still have an opinion on it, which is valid.
Yeah, no. I mean, I'm not a crazy platinum guy like you guys, so yeah, no comment. I thought they were fun. It definitely adds an aspect of like replayability to a certain extent, right? Like you can always be Spider-Man, you can always fight crime, but again, I could definitely see how it could get repetitive. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, with all the side quests going around, there's a lot of main story quests and a lot of side quests, like larger side quests that are actually like our missions that you play. And they ultimately end up with you fighting Doc Ock up on a super high tower, and he's trying to release a form of drug in the city, and you're having to stop him, and things get tough, and ultimately you save the city at the cost of the person you love most, right? And um, so Aunt May takes the fall for the city of New York, and I'm not gonna. I didn't cry. I didn't. I didn't like. I wasn't like tearing up, which I probably should have. But like, it was definitely like great
Heartless.
story. It was like a great build up. I didn't really see that coming. I thought Peter was gonna be able to save everyone. And to see him not be able to and break down, like it really made me appreciate this timeline of Peter Parker. As well as it's not an easy boss fight, even on an easier mode. I'm not playing on Amazing Spider-Man or Spectacular or whatever. I'm playing on normal, but it was a difficult fight, and to have it end that way, kind of, it was pretty impactful, honestly. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I think like you said, they built up the game for that moment, and it definitely it hit home, right? And I think going back to what you said at the beginning of, you know, Aunt May didn't know that he was Spider-Man. In the end, like she knew, like that scene where he's like, okay, I could save Aunt May, and she tells him like, hey, take off your mask, like I want to see my nephew. And you figure out that like she knew, obviously she didn't know the whole time, but like that scene just like hit pretty hard, as well as the final, like after the final fight with Doc Ock, when he's kind of like walking out of the building and Doc Ock is there and he's all like, I know your secret and all these things. And Peter Parker really kind of overcomes um, Otto Octavius, right, in that moment, and kind of takes the high road there. So I thought the ending was epic. Again, hit you right in the feels, but yeah, I thought it was a great ending for the game. And he gets the girl in the end, which I'm a sucker for a good love story, So I was happy that him and MJ figured it all out in the end. So yeah, big fan of the ending.
I think I definitely teared up at that end just to think about, because I mean, I've seen the story time and time again, right? We've seen Uncle Ben die so many different times. And it gets to a point where it's like, yeah, that's heartbreaking, but at least he's got Aunt May, right? But then Aunt May dies, and you're like, well, great, now he's got no one, right? Like his family's dead. And so
Rip MJ, dude. She's a no one.
yeah, she's no one. No, but it's like his family is gone. The one that he knew and grew up with is gone. His parents were, depending what comic line you follow, either died, drastically, or have just disappeared completely. And you have Uncle Ben and Aunt May, but then Aunt May dies, and you just see the turmoil. That was such a crazy moment where he literally had to choose either synthesize the cure so that he could save everyone else in New York, or use it to save the one person he cared the most. Right? I don't know what I would choose. That would be such a hard choice. I'd be like, well, screw everyone else. They didn't do anything for me. Save the person that cared for me and actually showed me the love. But then that wouldn't be Spider-Man, right? Like you wouldn't be Spider-Man in that moment. He had to choose the greater good. And that's, I guess, what made it even more tragic, but like heartfelt. Because even like Aunt May, she knew. She's like, you can't do that. Like you're always doing good, and you need to continue to do good, right? You're always been a hero. So be a hero now, and she's like, I'm already on my way out, so I might as well just save everyone else as well. And so that made it just very emotional, and kind of like what you said about Doc Ock. It was sad seeing him like paralyzed. He's literally like, that was the whole reason that he tried to make these arms work, is because he knew that he was deteriorating his body, but his mind was super sharp. He's like, how can I be locked to this horrible body but have such a brilliant mind? And so kind of seeing him just like paralyzed there and not being able to move, trying to get Peter to come back and help him was also probably took a lot of courage and a lot of guts to walk away from a mentor like slash father figure in your life who ended up like wanting to kill you. So
Yeah.
ending was great.
Yeah. Well, any other final things that we want to talk about before we, give our scores? Last call, Jake. Anything else?
No,
Your
that's all we
guy,
got.
Spider-Man, your man.
All good, man.
All right, let's hear what you got. What do you think? What's your rating?
For this game, I'd give it a 9.25 out of 10. Might be high again. I haven't played the second game, so I might be holding this one up on a pedestal. But I think I got to go back to my first playthrough of the game and just like really diving into the storyline, feeling like I'm Spider-Man. It was awesome. So again, I think we talked about a lot of aspects of it. I thought that the storyline was great. We get a lot of character development for Doc Ock. We have that kind of full circle moment with Aunt May in the end. He gets the girl, which is awesome. Big fan of that. And then just really the ability to play through this game. And then, I mean, we didn't really address the DLCs in this review, but then the DLCs after as well. Just that first playthrough really immersed me in the world, and so yeah, I'd give it a 9.25 out of 10.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I could look at this two ways, right? I could look at this when I first played this in 2018. I would give it a 10 because I'm like, this is my favorite superhero. I get to play as him. I actually get to feel like I'm him. I would give it a 10, right? But knowing what I know now with the second game, I probably would give it a 9 because I felt like the second game took what was amazing about the first game, and there was some detractions to it, but I felt like they listened to a lot of what the problems were with the first game and made it better in the second game. You know, i.e., I'm slight spoiler, the MJ missions are way better in the second game than they are in the first game. So, that's all I'll say. But because of that, I'm gonna give it a 9. Because the second game is actually it went really really well with like hand in hand with the second game or with the first game.
Yeah, and I'm gonna be seen as a hater. I'm going 8.75, so 8.75, and I think the crimes just had a larger impact for me. But I mean, I loved New York. I think that's what gave it such a bump was I gotta like swing through a city, and that plus the story really has made it one of the best games I've ever played. It's also the second game I ever played on a PlayStation, and so it was refreshing from like I loved Horizon Zero Dawn. That was the first game I played, but it was a whole different take on open world and you know getting a platinum for both of them. I liked it more. Rather than scanning enemies, I liked completing districts. That was more fun, and it was more of a experience for me. So I did really like this game. But that would be my rating of it before Spider-Man 2. Because I've also played Spider-Man 2. So just this standalone before I knew what they'd done 4 years after this game came out or whatever it is, then yeah, I'd say like an 8.75 out of 10. So great game. But well, appreciate y'all and y'all's takes. So, we're gonna continue to do some of these gaming reviews, especially once Jake gets that PlayStation. So stay tuned for that and what's next. We got a couple more in the chamber, but we'll keep them coming. So
One console down, Well, technically two consoles down. Wait, let's see. Try and pull this guy out here. We're two consoles down, So now we just need the PlayStation. So
yeah,
stay tuned.
well, Lucas is already working behind the scenes on that. So hopefully you can get some work done on it. So all right. Well, hey, catch us next time. Appreciate y'all's time. See you later.
Peace.